In today's video, we'll be looking into 10 real-life cases of exorcism and demon possession. Welcome back to FTD Facts. I'm Sarah Carvalho and I'm super excited for today's creepy video. Now, for most, the concept we have of possession comes from what we see in movies and books. But for those actually involved in real-life cases, it can be truly disturbing and traumatic. From super strength and speaking in tongues to levitation, here are 10 real exorcism stories and cases of demonic possession. Starting off at number 10, we have the PERRON family. In January of 1971, the PERRON family moved into a farmhouse in Rhode Island, where Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice strange things happening. Carolyn would find things had been moved around, scratched, and broken with no explanation. Later on, beds would rise off the floor and objects would be tossed around the rooms. At one point, a seance was conducted, during which Carolyn PERRON became momentarily possessed and spoke in tongues while her chair rose from the ground and her body was flung across the room. Strangely, the family continued to live in the house until they were able to move in 1980. All right, up next we have the case of Dr. Richard Gallagher and Julia. In 2008, a board-certified psychiatrist, Richard Gallagher, declared that his patient, known only as Julia, had experienced a case of possession. Julia claimed to be the queen of a satanic cult and was convinced she was being attacked by a demon. Gallagher met with her and ruled out mental illness when he observed Julia enter trance-like states, items flying off the shelves in his office, Julia speaking in tongues, and blurting out private details about his life that she couldn't possibly have known. Julia was eventually exorcised, allegedly spewing threats, levitating, exhibiting super strength, and influencing the temperature of the room. All right, our next case is that of Anna Eklund. Anna Eklund's possession spanned several decades, beginning in 1912 when she was just 14 years old. Anna's demonic possession was reportedly the result of a curse put on the devout Catholic in 1908 by her father and her aunt Mina. The first exorcism performed on Eklund in 1912 was successful for a time, but Eklund would be possessed again by even more demons in 1928. Her second exorcism, which lasted 3 sessions, was held at a convent and was so grueling it resulted in the deterioration of Anna's body. The demons were eventually exorcised and Anna went on to live her life, get this, with only milder possessions after. All right, up at number 7, we have the case of CLARA CELE. CLARA CELE, a 16-year-old student, was allegedly possessed in the late summer of 1906 after making a pact with the devil. Clara's behavior began to become erratic and intensified, with witnesses claiming that she developed a strong aversion to holy objects, tore at her clothes, talked to things that weren't visible, and growled like an animal. She also gained knowledge of other languages, levitated up to 5 feet off the ground, exhibited superhuman strength, and relayed personal information about others that she shouldn't have been able to know. 2 priests performed an exorcism that lasted 2 days before she was freed of the demon. All right, up next we have the strange case of Michael Taylor. After Michael's wife accused him of cheating on her and described his behavior as increasingly erratic and socially distant, Michael lashed out violently at both his wife and his alleged mistress. His terrifying behavior increased in frequency and intensity, and it was decided that Michael would be seen by priests. Following a full night of exhaustive exorcism sessions, the priests claimed they had pulled upwards of 40 demons from Taylor, but that several still remained inside him and they just sent him home. Well, upon his return, he violently ended the life of his wife and the family poodle. He was eventually picked up by police after wandering the neighborhood streets for hours, soaked in their blood. All right, and at the halfway point in this video, we have David Berkowitz, or the Son of Sam. You may have heard of him. One of America's most notorious serial slayers, claimed to have been possessed during his spree, blaming a demon named Papa Sam for his slaying of 6 New York City residents. After his capture, it was revealed that Papa Sam was his neighbor's dog, which he claimed was possessed by a 6,000-year-old demon who had a thirst for the spilling of human blood. Berkowitz claimed that the spirit locked him in an attic until he agreed to shed blood on its behalf. Super, super creepy. All right, up next we have the case of Roland Doe. After the passing of his aunt, Roland Doe, a 14-year-old boy, turned to a spirit board in an attempt to communicate with her. But apparently he invited in something much more sinister that possessed him. His family soon became overwhelmed by weird occurrences, including odd noises, furniture moving by itself, and objects levitating when Roland was around. The family reached out to a Catholic priest to have an exorcism conducted, during which Roland slashed the priest's arm open with a bed spring that he had ripped out, laughing in enjoyment at the sight of the priest's injuries. A second unsuccessful exorcism observed a shaking bed, flying objects, Roland speaking in a demonic voice, and Roland's aversion to anything sacred or blessed. In a third attempt, Roland's body became covered in strange markings, his mattress began to shake, and he actually broke the nose of one of the priests. Now, after roughly 30 attempts, a final exorcism was said to have finally worked, and Roland went on to live a seemingly normal life afterward. I mean, really, how can someone live normally after that? All right, our next case is the SMURLS poltergeist. The SMURL family claimed it was not a person, but in fact their entire home that had been taken over by a poltergeist. Paranormal investigators and demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren claimed the house was occupied by a very powerful demon, performing several failed exorcisms on the home. The demon's alleged attacks on the family included loud banging, foul-smelling odors, shaking mattresses, physical assaults such as being pushed down the stairs and even touched inappropriately, as well as the dog being thrown into a wall. Now, in 1986, after publishing a book about their experiences, the family claimed intense prayer had helped return things to normal. Although, I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty suspicious timeline for the haunting to suddenly stop. Okay, and up at number 2, we have the case of ANNELIESE Michel. Perhaps one of the most terrifying exorcism cases in history, ANNELIESE Michel's story went on to inspire the 2005 film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Michel, a young German woman, had struggled from an early age with mental illness. Diagnosed with epileptic psychosis, she also experienced depression and visual and auditory hallucinations, for which she was hospitalized. Now, with time, her symptoms intensified, growing to include an aversion toward religious iconography. Both she and her Catholic family attributed her condition to demonic possession, and beginning at the age of 22, she underwent an intense 10 months of Catholic exorcism rites. Nearly 70 exorcisms were performed on her in secrecy under the order of the church, ultimately and unfortunately leading to her passing. All right, and up at number 1 in today's video, we have the case of Gottlieben Dietes. In 1842, German villagers noticed strange happenings at the home of a 28-year-old woman named Gottlieben Dietes. Dietes claimed her house was haunted and soon began slipping in and out of trance-like states, but it was only when a religious pastor commenced an exorcism that things truly went wrong. Dietes became violent, requiring physical restraints for 2 torturous years, during which the pastor performed various exorcism rites. Dietes apparently vomited glass, nails, and blood. Finally, it was determined that Dietes' demons were gone, and she claimed that Jesus is victor in her battle. All right, friends, that brings us to the end of today's video on 10 real-life cases of exorcism and demon possession. So let me know in the comments below which of these terrifying cases gave you the goosebumps. As always, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you right back here next time for more facts. See ya!